I embraced it.
Well, it's like you said, the Ed Sullivan Show in '64 was a huge change for you and obviously 73 million plus other people that saw it that night. But 3 years later, Pepper, it's almost like the Beatles said, okay, we're going to change the world again because we can. Is that kind of like you and your friends, how it helped you maybe in those teen years? It was something like a friend you never had, like a record or something, that.
It was, if the Beatles were into it, then I'm into it, I think was the attitude. And I remember, I remember going to see the movie Help in the theater. I never saw Hard Day's Night in the theater because, again, it wasn't that easy to go see these things. And I remember it played in a small suburban theater in Warren, Rhode Island, and on a Saturday afternoon. And my friends and I all went. And we went and we saw that movie. And everybody in the theater, it's packed with kids, all singing at the top of their lungs to every song that came on in the movie. And in fact, the usher was a little old guy with a uniform and a hat who would come into the theater, and he'd put his flashlight on, and he'd say, "You kids have to be quiet or I'll shut the movie down." And what he didn't realize was that we were all singing together. But we came out of that film, my friends and I, thinking, okay, well, we know what we're going to do now. We're going to start our own band, even though we didn't really have any musical ability. I mean, not much. And we decided, okay, I'll be the lead guitarist, you be the bass player, you be the drummer. And we went off in that direction. But it was the Beatles' effect on me and my friends and my sister, too, who was younger than I was. It just was always part of us. And to this day, I'm so grateful that I lived through it when it happened. And I know you're a Beatles fan, a huge fan, but you're younger than I am.
Yeah.
And if there's one thing I could wish for you, John, besides, all the money in the world, I would like, if there was a way I could transfer to you the excitement of what Beatlemania felt like when it first happened.
Yeah.
And a lot of us, it never got out of our system.
Yeah. Well, all right. So do you remember what your favorite songs were then? And are they still your favorite songs now or over the years? Do you like them all equally? What's your...
Off this album?
Yeah, Pepper.
Well, I like the Sgt. Pepper reprise on the second side with the drumming. When it first came out, I would sometimes drop the needle on that. A Little Help from My Friends I liked, and I thought, well, that's certainly Ringo's greatest vocal performance to date. I know that's not saying much. God bless him. Within You, Without You.
George's Indian song. So you like that one? That was completely...
Doesn't belong on the album.
Right.
It's the odd man in there, but it, And, you could debate, well, other Beatles songs that they've done, Penny Lane should be on there. Eleanor Rigby should be on there because they fit the genre, the type of music. But, I don't know if there's any songs on there that I don't like. And, of course, A Day in the Life is just...
you can't really compare that to any other song. You
No.
know? You can prefer other ones to it, but Beatles or otherwise, but you can't really compare that song to anything else. That's just...
absolutely defies definition or categorization. It's a brilliant work of art.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where you can see that, oh, this is the John part, this is the Paul part, the
yep.
yin and yang that those two had.
Yep.
Yeah, there's John being all, I'd love to turn you on, and all all very metaphysical, and then there's Paul, woke up, fell out of bed, just being the everyday guy getting,
And that I'd Love to Turn You On line got the song banned from a number of radio stations across the country.
Did they ban it in your area?
No.
Oh.
But, again, there weren't a lot of top 40 stations playing Sgt. Pepper. I think they played A Little Help from My Friends. Might have been the only song that might have made it on to the local AM stations out of Providence. The stations that were playing it were the alternative college stations, which I discovered a little later. WBRU in Providence became the place to get music like this moving forward because top 40 wasn't picking up a lot of singles that were not mass appeal.
Yeah. So 3 years later, the Beatles broke up, but now, whenever they broke up, is that your favorite Beatles album, or is that your favorite? Is Pepper still your favorite Beatles album?
Oh, it has to be. Yeah, but again,
is part of it because of the memories attached to it, or
Yeah, I mean, well, the summer of '67, it was my first girlfriend. I got Sergeant Pepper. I had my first full-time job in the summer. I was working on a farm, and it was the summer of love out in San Francisco, and that whole attitude was working its way back to the right coast, to the East Coast where I was, and it was really a special, magical time to be alive, to be a kid in America. My friends and I were jumping on that alternative bandwagon where we were going to be. We saw ourselves as, Beatles rebels. We weren't. We shed the old clothes, and now we're going in the new direction. And I was young and naive, but it was great.
Yeah, well, And so it's obvious from your response here, but in your opinion,